For a long time, we have been asking perhaps the wrong question. Instead of emphasizing on what really matters, we questioned whether measurement is essential. And of course, the answer has always been yes. Whether measurement shows improvement, and the answer has always been yes. And whether measurement induces a positive behavior towards closing performance gaps and generating better impact, and the answer again has always been yes. This one-dimensional, linear way of evaluating the worthiness of performance measurement from a traditional perspective is very limiting, and in the context of a modern digital era, it is called into question, primarily from the point of view of what is required today. And this takes us back to the two considerations. One is whether measurement is valuable from the point of view of providing enterprise intelligence or business intelligence, and whether the value of the data that is computed and presented in its final format can truly enable decision-making to be effective. If the answer to these questions is no, then the measurement has zero value. This takes us to the value of big data analytics in affecting the decision-making of all leaders and all organizations in all these sectors of a modern economy. Perhaps as a starting point, an interesting quote by Peter Sundergaard, who says, "Information is the oil of the 21st century, and analytics is the combustion engine. The supply of raw data is what ignites performance and creates value, and data analytics is what ensures the dynamicity of any organization and allows it to behave in a healthy manner and deliver value and grow without any restrictions." Being data-driven, therefore, means that the mindset has to be changed from what used to be concerned with what do we know and what we must maintain, to a new mindset that asks the question, what do we think? What can we visualize? What are the prospects for the future? And the accessibility to better insights, bigger insights, using data analytics will create the momentum of change and transformation with any organization in any industry, and will start to prevent the erosion of its decision-making and creates an alternative that is much better because it is current and it makes the organization relevant. the new decision making is not necessarily just limited to the use of rationality and facts and figures, but also by gaining bigger and better insight. Intuition can be allowed to shape the characteristic aspects of an organization that wishes to explore, to prosper, and to drive itself to bigger heights. So expertise in decision makers is not through rationality and micro manipulation of data, although this is still relevant and is one of the elements of quality decision making. But nonetheless, insight is what gives confidence to move forward, and sometimes insight cannot be measured through facts and figures, but through valuable information and visualization of scenarios or demonstration of causal relationships and an interpretation of dynamicity and seamlessness that allows value to be created and an organization to be healthy. Some people refer to the unfortunate accident of the Titanic by saying that the captain, Mr. Edward Smith, who was competent and smart, however, one who did not use intuition, by ignoring warnings of an approaching iceberg which collided with the Titanic and led to one of the most horrific and well-known disasters in history. The data deluge is one that needs to be appreciated but managed in the best way possible. Every day we are growing at least tenfold of data items. From 2013 and 2020, the growth will move from 4.4 trillion gigabytes to 44 trillion gigabytes. And that means that the data-driven decision-making will exponentially become more pervasive and better and more productive with a significant increase. Many organizations still fail to use valuable data that is available to them. A lot of dearth is caused by the fact that many organizations are chasing targets that are futile and trying to hit the bullseye, which is an elusive dream, instead of collecting data that is critical to their survivability and for making the right decisions. A recent study by Gartner observed that despite the strong interest in business intelligence and analytics, there is still a lot of confusion that big data is inhibiting the organization from being fast and agile. And this is what's hampering investment is data analytics software. At the moment, it is reported that only 25% of CEOs use data that is valuable to them, and 44% of executives still complain about having to make decisions with incomplete or inaccurate data. 75% of senior managers and leaders report that they are dissatisfied with access to the data they need or the speed with which information is delivered to them. In a sense, enterprise intelligence and business intelligence is not desirable, but rather essential in today's business environment. by having the right data and exploring and exploiting all the relevant sources is a must. Real-time data is the icing on the cake, and by not having to wait for analysts and experts who can manipulate the data, but receiving it in its refined format, in its complete format, and its in visual presentation, will also expedite the decision making and ensures that the organization acts quickly, exploits opportunities with the speed of light, and remain relevant. Data must be made accessible anytime, anywhere, and must be at the fingertips of all the people required. The integrity of the data has to be preserved at all times, and the generation of data must be as close as possible to the sources in order to ensure credibility and the integrity. But all data must be refined with different purposes, and advanced data analytics is equally as important as data analysis for operational excellence. There is steady growth in the business intelligence market, and the figure illustrates that from 2013 to 2018 there has been significant interest in business intelligence using various social media tools. So how can we ensure that performance excellence can guide an organization to faster and more effective decision making, and also how can performance deliver data that is attractive, that is valuable, and that is built on the principles of intelligence, by answering questions about what is possible, where to explore in the future, what would be valuable, and how to achieve a leading position. The learning curve that every organization needs to go through is one where the improvements through the mindset of trying to hit the target each time and using KPI orientation must be acknowledged with its limitations, and its value must be decreased as baseline as opposed to be the main concern. In other words, incremental target setting as a mindset is limited to doing the obvious by being absorbed and obsessed with status quo and tackling deficiencies, as opposed to raising standards and being future-oriented. The second level of this evolutionary path is to learn how to manage the core by being smart with KPI design and KPI deployment, and being able to stretch performance in order to gain bigger benefits. And this is done through quality deployment, through optimization of processes, and managing the value chain through consistency and reliability. However, does this help an organization explore the future and achieve a leading position? The answer is perhaps not anymore. The real benefit in terms of business intelligence and making decision-making more effective is to allow senior executives to do smart planning and exploring the future, not by hitting the bullseye, but rather by shooting ahead of the duck. This means that the behavior is to move from being concerned with absolute outcomes to more relative decision making and allowing intuition and gained insight to be extremely important contributors to the decision-making process. This means that creating a new mindset will allow the creation of an accelerated momentum which treats value creation from a relative standpoint, but also which moves forward with confidence that the baby will not be thrown with the bathwater, and an organization can confidently disrupt, shape the future, but also maintains and sustains its capability to deliver with confidence, with consistency, with reliability, and with dependability. This evolution can also be seen at 3 levels. The hindsight level will have extremely limited value in today's environment, and the obsession with looking at the deficient mindset through root cause analysis, the study of variation in quality provision, the significant and exaggerated emphasis on measuring efficiency and gap analysis will diminish in terms of equipping an organization to compete at the highest level. Even the lean philosophy and the use of Six Sigma will become essential elements as opposed to competitive capabilities. Moving to a higher level, level 2 of what can be referred to as partial insight, means that planning can be made more fluid, allowing the short term to be one element of the whole strategic perspective, and enriching the process by incorporating elements related to future foresight. And this would mean that value chain management has to be built on richer analytics and predictive means for dealing with commoditization and the short shelf life of what is delivered to the end customer, and the importance of being able to replenish with innovation and using the mindset of co-creation and collaboration, for instance, for leveraging and for being able to compete. And the third aspect is to use data analytics in order to constantly gain better customer intimacy and proactively determine the unspoken needs in order to be prepared for future expectations, and allow customers and stakeholders to be part and parcel of creating value and determining how they shape their own individual and personalized experiences. At the higher level is to gradually create the insight-driven organization through radical new thinking and using the purpose of an organization as milestone related, and not looking at constancy of purpose as something that is set on a tablet of stone. So the constant use of rich data, advanced analytics, machine learning is for exploration and discovery, and using business intelligence and the confidence in decision making and the subsequent planning, not necessarily through rationality but also through intuition, previously referred to as gut feeling. Intuition, however, is based on logic and is based on sufficient information or indication of what might happen, what is likely to happen because of the insight gained all the time. The deployment of the new skills is to encourage the inquiry mind, is to allow learning to be a relative journey, and to ensure that what used to be relevant becomes irrelevant, what used to be insight might be hindsight, because the organization constantly moves forward and renews itself, and the more it does, the more it grabs new opportunities and looks at new levels of foresight, and whatever is learned and consumed becomes part of the puzzle. So the process of moving from hindsight to foresight is not to put the house in order once and for all and only once, but to constantly drive through disruptive behavior.